welcome back to the Hello Ruthie show. I'm your host, Ruthie. This is a show where I break down everything that you should be watching next. These are all the shows that I've recently watched and loved or hated. And if you're somebody who's a fan of all things entertainment and movies and TV and what you should be watching next, come along with me and join me. Like and subscribe if this is your thing. Okay, so I have to start by getting this off my chest because it's something that royally pisses me off. My Lady Jane being canceled before it was given a chance to catch on is, in my opinion, one of the greatest tragedies of the 21st century. That this was one of the best shows to come out this year, and it felt like it was canceled before it was even given a chance for its audience to find it. So whoever made the decision to cancel this show clearly did not know how to market this right to the correct audience. They also probably didn't even watch the show, and if they had, they would have seen how seriously entertaining it was. It would have been a smash hit if it had been marketed to fans of shows like Bridgerton, Emily in Paris, or The Great. Which, if you haven't watched any of those shows yet, what are you waiting for? Those are great shows. But this caught my eye because it stars, one of the stars of the show is the adorable Edward Bluemel, who you may recognize if you watched A Discovery of Witches. He played the character of Marcus. Great show if you haven't already seen it. Go check it out on Netflix right now. Anyways, Edward Bluemel plays the adorable Lord Guilford Dudley, the charming son of the rich lord in 1553 England. And the story is actually based on a true story about the real life Lady Jane Grey, who's played by the phenomenal Emily Bader. It is a fictional telling of about the 9-day Queen of England, who the true story is actually really tragic. But this show, I think, gives Lady Jane the justice that she deserved. Lady Jane Grey was the first cousin to Queen Elizabeth and Mary, Queen of Scots. And apparently, when Henry VIII died, his son Edward was made king, but Edward was extremely sickly and died shortly afterwards. So instead of making his oldest sister Mary queen, Edward decided to make Lady Jane Grey, who was they say that she was the true heir to the throne because Henry VIII divorced Mary's mother and decapitated Queen Elizabeth's mother. So gotta love the men and their insecurities. So anyways, Lady Jane is then made queen at 19 years old and ruled England for 9 days before Mary gathered her forces and beheaded Jane and Guilford Dudley as traitors to the throne. So that's the true story. Is so sad and brutal. But I love how they took such a sad story and turned it into one of the funniest shows to come out this year. The show sprinkles in a little bit of supernatural to the story to lighten it up and take this like truly sad story and make it a lot more fun. So, plus I have to say the chemistry between Lord Guilford and Lady Jane was off the charts hot. Oh my gosh. They honestly had some of the best chemistry that I have seen on screen between actors in a really long time. So it was so believable that they were madly in love with each other, and I really wanted to see more. And it's also a thrill. Sorry. And if a thrilling love story isn't enough for you, Anna Chancellor as Lady Frances Gray, who is Jane's mom, had some of the best one-liners in the show. Example A.
There is always power if you know how to play the game. I will be queen. And gamesmanship is my second best skill.
What's your first best skill, Mummy?
Felicia.
What's up, pussycat?
The entire cast was witty and talented. Dominic Cooper is in it also, and he plays like this sniveling little suck-up to Mary. And the performances from everyone really brought the entire story to life. It was really fun seeing Dominic Cooper go from playing the lovable Jesse Custer in Preacher to the exact opposite in My Lady Jane. I cannot say enough good things about this show. I just loved it so much. It's funny, it's fun, it's dramatic. If you're looking for a really well-written story with a little bit of romance, some supernatural, fun, and historical context, I recommend you check out this show on Amazon Prime. All right, and the next show that I recently watched that I absolutely fell in love with was Fallout on Prime. Walton Goggins Jr. deserved to win the Emmy this year for his role as the Ghoul. Ella Purnell was also fantastic in Fallout, and you don't really need to be a fan of video games to be a fan of this show. If you like sci-fi type shows and enjoy fun storytelling, Fallout is one of the best shows this year to go and recognize Ella Purnell from Yellow Jackets. Her character Lucy in Fallout is actually a really great break from her character of Jackie in Yellow Jackets. This girl has got some range, folks. The show takes place in like a post-apocalyptic world where all of the rich people were able to afford to live in vaults underground while the rest of the world was left to die from nuclear bombs. Now, I have never played the video game. Honestly, didn't even know that it was a video game until I watched the final credits. But it's visually appealing. It's a great story that you should go and check out. The storyline and characters are so compelling. So I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to give it away, but I already cannot wait for next season to come out. I personally believe that Walton Goggins Jr. deserved the Emmy because he is one of the best actors in Hollywood right now and has earned the recognition that he got just from even being nominated. But I also understand why the Emmy went to Hiroki Sanada for Shogun. I'm just such a big fan of Walton Goggins Jr. that I was excuse me, that I was really hoping he would have won the Emmy for this role. So please go check it out on Prime when you get a chance. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. All right, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. I have to say, excuse me, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with my throat right now. So switching gears a little bit, I have to say, don't get your hopes up for Furiosa on HBO Max. Though it takes place in the same universe as Mad Max Fury Road, the movie felt like they were just trying too hard to capture the magic that was Fury Road, but they leaned a little too hard into the like weird jumpy cinematography and the bizarre characters. It's supposed to be Furiosa's origin story, which was interesting, but the story became a little stale at moments and had me begging for it to be over. I was honestly really bummed by how bad the movie was because I am such a huge fan of Chris Hemsworth and Anya Taylor-Joy. Even their star power wasn't enough to save this dumpster fire of a movie from the eternal depths of terrible movie making. Maybe the writer's strike had something to do with it, but it just seemed like it could have been polished up a little bit and reworked to be a much better story than what was produced. It also could have probably been about an hour shorter. It really seemed like they were trying way too hard to capture some of the quirky parts of Fury Road that made that movie so entertaining, but they completely overdid it. Instead of focusing on developing the story and the characters, it seemed like they focused too much on like weird camera angles and jumpy cinematography. There was even a moment where I started to feel a little car sick while watching all the chaotic shots and fast motion. And I don't usually get car sick from watching movies in my living room, but if I had seen this one in theaters, I probably would have needed a barf bag. It was just yeah, I did not like it. I encourage you to see it for yourself, but I personally didn't feel like it was that great of a movie. Very glad I did not see that one in theaters. So, yeah, make up your own mind on that one. Next, the unbearable weight of massive talent was so much better than I expected it to be. It was better than I could have ever imagined. Nicolas Cage playing himself and completely making fun of how ridiculous he can be was probably my favorite part of the whole movie. In fact, I even gained a little bit of respect for Nicolas Cage after watching this movie. Normally, I find a lot of his movies to be pretty terrible lately. I'm sorry. But I will always respect anyone who can make fun of themselves like that and be proud of it. So I highly recommend watching this movie if you're looking for a good laugh. Pedro Pascal is also wonderful and adorable, and I don't think that he could possibly do any wrong. He's so lovable and fun in this movie. I honestly watched it because I love Pedro so much, but I was happily impressed with how funny Nicolas Cage was in this. So if you're looking for a silly buddy comedy movie to make you laugh, go check it out. It's on Apple and Prime, I think, right now. So go check it out. I've got links in the description below if you want to go check it out. And the next thing that I watched recently was the final season of The Umbrella Academy, which was recently released on Netflix. And I will say it was time for this show to end. The last 6 episodes they actually did a really good job of wrapping up the story, but let's face it, the show was on the last legs anyways. It just seemed like they didn't know where else to take the show, and it had reached its expiration date, I think. Maybe it was also a victim of the writer's strike a few years ago, but it really seemed to lack creativity towards the end. I'm not sure if the series knew where to go with the characters, but it just seemed a little lost in parts. In season 4, there were several episodes that seemed like they just didn't know what to do, so they were going to drag out the drama as much as possible. There were so many potential storylines that they could have leaned into, but they seemed to fumble with where to go and what to do with a lot of the previous season. So it made the last 6 episodes kind of a relief to watch, honestly. They did a good job of wrapping up the story and giving the characters a suitable ending. It was always kind of a quirky show based on a comic book, but it definitely had run its course. So I'm looking forward to seeing all the actors in anything else that they do in the future. All right, so the next show that I binge watched was Chaos on Netflix, which was fantastic. It's a telling of the Greek myths set in modern time. So Jeff Goldblum is perfect as Zeus. Janet McTeer plays Hera, and Stephen Delane, aka Stannis Baratheon, plays Prometheus. It was a fun and funny telling of the Greek gods and the mortals who they ruled over. Debbie Mazar also has a role in it, which made my heart so happy because I haven't seen Debbie in anything in years. So I was really excited to see her making a comeback. She also has a little cameo at the end of Emily in Paris season 4. So if you blink, you'll miss it. But I was psyched to see her in several of the shows that I've been watching lately. Chaos does a really great job of telling Greek myths of the gods in a modern way. The show isn't based on any one specific Greek god or myth, but it combines a few stories like the gods like Zeus and Prometheus and characters like Eurydice and Orpheus. I found it to be a fun new telling of the old Greek myths, and I'm looking forward to season 2 coming out I think it's coming out in 2026-ish, I believe. So I vaguely remember the stories and a few of the myths, but you don't have to be a fan of like Xena or Hercules to fall in love with this show, I promise. It's a totally new spin on all of the Greek myths. So speaking of Emily in Paris, the complete 4th season is now out on Netflix. So of course I binged the entire thing this weekend. My only issue with it was the timing of the release of the season. It was clearly intended to come out in like November, December, but a Christmas season, because there was it was very heavily focused on Christmas. It was a little hard to get into the Christmas spirit of the show when it was 90 degrees outside and the sun was shining and the last few days of summer were still in the air. Otherwise, it was really good. This is a show that should do 22 episodes a season instead of just 12. Each episode could be an hour long instead of 30 minutes. Now, this is a show that should have won an Emmy or 2 for the comedy category instead of The Bear. It had me laughing at Emily's ridiculousness and Mindy's one-liners about everything. How is Ashley Park not a bigger actress? My God, that woman is so talented. So I also cried in parts. As always, Emily's outfits are ridiculous, but I will say they seemed to tone it down a little bit more this season, but the storytelling is spot on. I love how the show gives us a personal tour of Europe through the eyes of Emily and allows us to daydream about one day visiting all of the incredible landmarks highlighted within the show. I can't wait for the next season to come out. And the last thing that I recently watched that you need to go and watch on HBO Max is the movie Horizon. It was so much better than I expected it to be. The previews made it look like it was kind of going to be one of those boring old westerns that your dad usually watches, but it was actually really good. So for being a 3-hour movie, it kept my attention the entire time. I think it did a really good job of switching between storylines and holding the tension of the plot between the scenes. I was actually impressed by how good it was and how I was able to stay engaged through the entire film. I'm actually looking forward to the second half coming out later this year. I just think that the reason the movie didn't do very well in theaters is because it was so long. They also didn't do a very great job of marketing it. They could have made the trailer a lot more engaging and given you more to wonder about with the movie instead of making it look like just kind of another long, boring, dramatic Western. Now, if boring Westerns are your thing, I would recommend you go watch Killers of the Flower Moon. that was one of the most boring movies I've ever sat through. Not sure what's up with Leo's tastes in scripts lately, but dear God, man, please pick something that's actually entertaining again. Anyways, so Kevin Costner, on the other hand, has been making some really great stuff lately, and I am all for it. Horizon is honestly another one of the best movies that I've seen this year, and I just don't think that it got the marketing that it needed in order to make it a success. Um, a success is what I said. So, with how long it is, it might have been done better as like a 6-part series or something. But for some reason, they decided to release it in theaters as a 2-part, very long movie. It's definitely one you want to watch in the comfort of your home, but I found myself glued to the screen throughout the whole movie. If you're a fan of Yellowstone, you would probably like this movie, but this movie seemed to try to tell a historically accurate version about everything that was going on in the West at the time. I honestly didn't think I was going to like it as much as I did, so that was one that I'm recommending as a surprise recommendation because I was not expecting that movie to be as entertaining as it actually was. And lastly, I have to give a huge shout out to Lamorne Morris for winning the Emmy for Fargo. I am so freaking proud of Lamorne for winning the Emmy for that. If you are a New Girl fan, you know Lamorne was the guy that played Winston in New Girl, and he won this Emmy for his role in Fargo. And I am all about checking this show out next because I'm such a huge Lamorne Morris fan. I think that he is one of the funniest people in Hollywood right now. And also Juno Temple is in it from Ted Lasso. So that just gives me another reason to go and check out this show. So proud of Lamorne. So excited for him for winning the Emmy. He deserves it. And I have also heard a little whispering. I saw an interview with Lamorne where he said they are trying to reboot New Girl. Yeah! Jake Johnson's just being a butthead and not wanting to work with anybody on it for some reason. Come on, Jake, give the fans what they want. We want more New Girl episodes. Bring it back. It's such a great show. All right, so those are my breakdowns for the week. I hope you enjoyed my little take on everything. Please leave a comment and tell me what you're watching. I want to know. Give me suggestions on things that I can watch next. Let's start a conversation. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you see. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you next time.